Welcome back to another episode of Spirit of an Athlete. I'm your host, Amanda Smith, and on this episode, I interviewed Alissa Alter, who is the Amy Poehler of vaginas. That's your warning. We are talking vaginas pretty much this entire episode. So if this is not for you, turn it off now. Alissa is a Pilates instructor as well as a coach for women that are struggling with pelvic floor issues. If you don't know what your pelvic floor is, in this episode, you're going to find out and figure out how to feel your pelvic floor because we go in depth on feeling it in multiple different locations. Again, prepare yourself. We are trying to normalize vaginas. It's a part of our anatomy, and it's something that we need to be talking about because it is the seat of our power. I truly hope you enjoy this episode and enjoy hearing about vaginas. Alissa Alter, thank you so much for being on Spirit of an Athlete with me. Okay, I'm going to start us so that everybody knows where this episode is going. Where did this phrase come from? You are the Amy Poehler of vaginas.
It was gifted to me by a friend of a friend who I was meeting, who was asking me about what I do. And I was telling her about it. And she was like, "Oh my God, you're so funny." And, I have a background in musical theater and comedy. And so we were talking about it. And she was just like, "Oh my God, you're like the Amy Poehler of vaginas." And I said, "I'm going to use that." And I have, because it sort of clearly brings together my vibe and what I do.
Right? Oh my, so our warm up for this episode, you already had me cracking up. And everybody now knows we're going to be talking about vaginas.
Yeah.
How many different words have you had to use in your practice with your clients for this particular part of our anatomy?
People sometimes say other things, but I stick to the names.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll say vag.
Okay. Not
Or
vajayjay.
sometimes, no, I just say vagina. I do like to make, it just comes so naturally to make all the jokes. Like if we're
Right?
talking about keeping your box square, then I'm like, hee, your box. Like, is that one square too? Like I can't help it.
Not. Sorry, I had to.
But I like to straight up keep the actual names for things. And if we're talking about
that.
vulva, we say vulva. And if we're talking about
Totally.
vagina, we say vagina. Anal sphincter versus urethral sphincter, right? Vaginal opening versus higher inside, right?
Clit or clitoris?
Clitoris.
Okay.
Although I had a health teacher in high school, I'll never forget it. She said clitoris, and like we all couldn't get over it because we all said clitoris and none of us knew what to do and we weren't actually going to ask, but also like potato.
Okay, that's fair. Right? Well, I mean, I've heard it both ways. Now you've got me wondering, like, is it clitoris or is it clitoris?
Maybe it depends on the day, on the context. I don't know.
On the country you're saying it from. Do you
But
ever call it? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I find that I do that because we all are a little bit relieved to simply normalize our anatomy because anyone who has female anatomy or was socialized as a woman in our society or identifies as a woman, we've really been taught explicitly and implicitly to be disgusted and embarrassed, horrified, secretive about like our undercarriage. And this is our anatomy. Like, this is, something I say all the time is like, my left eyebrow, because I started waxing my eyebrows when I was very young because I had a unibrow and my mom took pity on me.
Oh.
But then, in the 90s and early aughts, it was very in to have like the thinnest
And
possible. So the left eyebrow goes bald, right? Like there's 3 hairs holding up the whole team. If one of them goes, the eyebrow's gone. And I know this so intimately. And this is like, I'm self-conscious about my brows.
Mhm.
Like, this is my thing.
Yep.
That's perfectly socially acceptable for me to be this fluent and intimately understand the anatomy of my left eyebrow.
Oh, no.
But why is it weird if I'm like, "Huh, my right labia is, like, different from the left." Like, I think like, do you guys have that? Or yours asymmetrical? Do we I didn't do anything. Is this just, like, how I was? And then maybe ask my doctor about it, or if I notice something new because I actually know what my anatomy looks like, what my normal is, and I have a
Yeah.
question about it, like, why is that suddenly strange?
Yeah. I
Right? We
think
can keep
that's
track of how many abs we can see and the definition in our delts and all of that. But
Mhm.
what about, I can really lift the right side of my pelvic floor just as much as the left side. Like, why can't I brag about that?
Oh my gosh. Because we haven't normalized studying a living human woman. Unfortunately, that
Right.
has not become the norm yet, and that's the entire anatomy. It's not just this one specific area in our body, which is really unfortunate, and it keeps coming up on this podcast. I keep talking about this with women because we've had several people come on and talk about perimenopause, menopause,
Yes.
and these are things, again, that they're not normalized. They're things that have been shoved under the rug. Nobody's talked about it for centuries, even though we've all been experiencing it for centuries.
For as long as we've been able to live this long,
Exactly.
it's been happening.
Centuries at this point.
Right? Like, yeah, we didn't know about it when we didn't live past 30.
Yeah.
But now we know. And yeah, I mean,
Right.
they're starting the research now, which isn't it on average, it takes about 17 years for then like the research that is happening today to be published. So we'll have
Mm,
all the information confirming the things we know.
right. It's getting faster. I think one of the things to point out is the information is coming faster. And
Okay,
the
great.
trick here now is how to decipher what is good information and what isn't. And that's really in the last 5 years, 7 years, we've really had to get to that point where now it's like, okay, was that study done by a company who has a stake in the results,
Mhm.
or was that something that we can actually trust? And that's where we've gotten because information is coming so quickly now, which
Yeah.
I love that information is coming quicker, but, do your fact checkings.
Right, but
Find out who's putting their money into it.
we need a little more discernment around the sources of that information.
Exactly, exactly. So why are you a good source about the vagina?
I love that question.
Well,
um I'm a good source for all things vagina. Well, not all things. I'm not gonna look at yours. I'm not gonna touch yours. I can't, right?
there
Like,
you go.
and I tell
Not a
my I
doctor.
am not a doctor. I am not a physical therapist. I am not an OT. My I I am a professional dancer. I am a classically trained, fully certified Pilates instructor who has been moving and shaking since I could.
Mhm.
Um, and my passion for the pelvic floor and fascination with it and sort of the my need to share that this is like our hidden secret started when I was in the Broadway production. It's literally our hidden secret.
It's a hidden secret that I have a vagina? Damn it.
No, it's our hidden power source that we're underutilizing. When I was in the Broadway production of Guys and Dolls and I hurt my back,
Oh,
and I was in PT with, the Broadway PTs who are used to working with professional dancers, because also, like, an injury, I'm now out of work.
right.
So the stakes are high, and this is my whole identity. This is everything. And I had already been teaching for a long time
Mhm.
when this happened. And I said to my PT, I know that it's my back, but I think the issue is my pelvis. I think that there's something from the choreography and from, a lifetime of dancing that it's an imbalance in my pelvis that sort of left me susceptible for this to show up. And she was like, "That's exactly what's going on." And I didn't know that she was finishing up her, like, additional certifications to become a pelvic health physical therapist. And she was like, "You're gonna lose your mind, Alyssa. Like, because I was like, "It all comes back to the pelvis." I'd, like, really been focusing on, and with my clients, they'd come with all sorts of different injuries. And I was like, "When we address this, everything comes together." She was
Literally.
like, "Wait till you learn about the pelvic floor." And that's when it started. And really, I then did a certification with a yoga instructor who does yoga for pelvic floor.
Yep.
And there isn't, like, I couldn't do, like, the programs that exist for pelvic floor physical therapists, like, I don't have access to because I'm not a PT. That's fine. So I instead put things together. I did a lot of workshops in New York City with Hospital for Special Surgeries. I worked with that physical therapist that I was working with. She started referring other patients to me to work with and collaborating on those cases, and doing my own, just like, heavy nerding out on the anatomy of the pelvic floor. Things about how muscles work that I already know. These are voluntary skeletal muscles, just like your bis and tris. Um, and then how the nervous system fits into all of this. So,
Mm.
incorporating all of that, I fully rehabilitated my back injury, went on to continue my professional dance career like a boss. Like, it didn't inhibit me dancing, jumping, turning, being thrown around in 3-inch heels, like doing all
Well,
of it. And then so I then started teaching pelvic health, Pilates, right, for pelvic health.
yes.
And then I had my first child.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm so ready for this. Like, I got this. And I had helped so many pregnant women do this. And then I had what I call a rectovaginal birth. So my baby came out of both of my vagina and my rectum,
Oh my.
because I had a fourth degree tear that went all the way through. That
Mm.
is not because I failed at anything. Like, lots of things happen in childbirth, including babies with gigantic heads and
Yes.
wide shoulders, right? So this happened. And through my rehabilitating that injury, right? Because it's a sports injury,
Yes.
and having to advocate for myself, because in lots of areas I was met with, "This happens. Everyone else is fine. You're fine." And I was like, "I am not fine. Like, I'm an
Mhm.
elite athlete. Like, I need more than just being able to run to the bathroom and go to the bathroom on my own terms. Like, I need that, but also I'm getting back on a trampoline. I don't run, but I want to be able to run if I want to, but I don't want to. So I'm not
Just in
going
case
to.
you're chased
But
by
I
a
want
bear.
what?
Just in case you're chased by a bear,
I don't know.
right?
There, right? Um and through that, I didn't know I could nerd out harder about the pelvic floor, and how, not just for, like, gynecological reasons, but this is part of our core.
Mhm.
And you're not going to have a fully functioning, strong core if you completely ignore one piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
And that applies to, you know, going to the bathroom only when you want to. It applies to having, like, the best sex that you want to have, whatever kind that is. But it also applies to doing handstand push-ups, doing if you're a gymnast and want to, like, get a triple backflip. I don't like, if you're a dancer and
Mhm.
want to be doing 4 or 5 pirouettes instead of 2. Like, if you need to jump higher, perform better in any arena,
Mhm.
you need your full core helping you, but because people are afraid to say vagina, we don't get to have that.
Right.
But not anymore, not in my house, not while I'm around.
Heck yes.
That was a long answer.
That was a I love your answer. I love that you've not only experienced it from an injury perspective as an athlete, but also from the mom perspective, because that definitely changes things. And then the next phase is perimenopause and menopause, because you're going to learn even more then.
I'm already nerding out about it because
Good.
I like to be prepared before I go in. That's how my anxiety works.
Yeah, same. Same.
Yes. Well, and I think a lot of it is also, as you were, um, reflecting that back, like, if you're an athlete and get injured, it is you already start spiraling to this is the beginning of the end, right?
Yes.
This is the end
Yes.
of my career.
Career or the game that you
Potential,
love or potential. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the same thing happens when you have kids. You're like, "Well, I guess I don't get to not pee my pants anymore forever."
I
Right?
can't
Like, that's
sneeze and not pee my pants. I think that's probably the one that's like, trampoline is one thing, but like laughing, coughing, and sneezing.
being caught off guard
Yes.
like that. Yeah, because you
And
can't prepare. But the thing is, muscles change.
yes,
They
they do.
adapt. They are resilient, just like we are.
Mhm.
And if you have this thought of like, I guess it's over, well, then it is because you're not going to move toward it in the same way as like, well, this is going to take a lot of work. Like,
That's the
let's figure
assumption,
this
though.
out.
That's always the assumption is not only is it gonna take a lot of work, but it's gonna be uncomfortable. Like, at that part of my body, I don't wanna be uncomfortable, right? And
Yes.
and then on top of it, the uncomfortability of talking about it,
Mhm.
exposing yourself in that area of your body, and I love that we started with that. I love that we're normalizing it.
Yeah.
And that's the goal here, women. Let's normalize talking about our vaginas. In
Yes.
yoga, so I'm a yoga instructor, and in yoga, it's one of the main things that I focus on in my sessions with the women, but also the men.
Yes.
They have a pelvic floor too. It
Yes.
doesn't
And
have a vagina in the middle of it.
most of theirs is really tight.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. How many times have you seen a man sit on the floor and try to do the butterfly with their knees falling open and they can't do it? That's their pelvic floor. Also their hamstrings and potentially their hips and how the structure is there. But
Yeah.
one of the things you pointed out, and I want to highlight this, is that this is part of our core.
Mhm.
When you think about the bones, just the bones that make up your pelvis, they're huge. And then you think about the muscles that are around this area. Your glutes are the biggest muscle in your body.
Mhm.
So now we're contending with large bones, large muscles, the largest muscles on our body, not the largest bones on our body, but they're close to it. Our femurs are the largest bones in our body. And then you've got all of these intricate muscles in this area that nobody's naming, touching, or connecting with when they're working out or even just sitting, moving. And now I'm inviting everyone in the audience to relax your pelvic floor. So if you don't know how to do that, Kegel first and then relax. And men, yes, you can do a Kegel too. Squeeze your butthole. That's the start of it for you. And relax because we're talking about it, so we might as well connect with it and have a relationship with it, right?
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of confusion around Kegelig.
Oh gosh,
And
yes.
and the point that you made is like, a lot of people ke with everybody's got the best of intentions, but again, it's because we're not talking about this explicitly or specifically
Mhm.
that we don't know what to do because no one's gonna say it.
Right?
But people will squeeze their glutes, their butt
Yes, their
cheeks.
butt cheeks.
Kegels aren't even your butthole.
Right,
Kegels are the urethral sphincter, like you're stopping the flow of urine, but don't use stopping peeing as your exercise. Like if you
oh
want
my
to
gosh,
check if you know how to access these muscles, you can be peeing and then stop it and then keep peeing and then don't do that anymore because you don't want to like confuse your brain and your bladder and how they communicate with each other because we want to pee.
right?
Um but after my tear, the common thing would be do Kegels. And my question was, how is working my urethral sphincter going to help my two hole?
Right,
How is that going to help my anal sphincter tore? She needs help. So, how is working my pee hole going to help my bee hole? I need to work on my bee hole. But that's not actually a Kegel because Kegels are for the urinary sphincter, but it's
yeah,
another pelvic floor exercise. And you might be hearing us talking about this, and we know this. You and I know this, but
correct.
maybe you
The
listening don't know
listeners.
this yet.
Yeah,
That like you can articulate these muscles because there's like a whole bunch of muscles and there's different layers. And you could think of lifting the right side of your butthole and then the left side of your butthole, and the right side of your pee hole and the left side of your pee hole, and the right side of your V hole and the left side of your V hole. And for the men listening, think about your energetic vagina since you don't have a literal vagina. And let's harness that vagina energy even when you don't have one.
ah, that's why, like, when it comes to talking to men about it, like, my access point is going to be the butthole
Yes.
because that's the closest thing that they've already figured out how to handle. Whereas women, it's interesting too to, like, I immediately am thinking of that one woman who does the egg with, like, she dangles weights from the egg that she
Mm,
holds, and I'm just like, "Wow." But also PeriFit pops into my mind. Have you used a PeriFit?
no.
Oh my gosh. It looks like a vibrator,
Right.
but
Yeah. No. And it gives you that biofeedback of
it
how you're
oh,
contracting and how you're releasing.
and how much strength you have, and it really teaches you the subtleties, and I think that's something for our listeners to hear, is how subtle it is to move these muscles. It doesn't have to be a big grand gesture, it's not like a bicep curl. It's
Right.
it's super subtle, and it should be.
And I'll also say, absolutely. And I think that those devices are a wonderful tool
Yes.
to get to
Feedback.
know that subtlety and create that sense memory.
Mhm.
And it doesn't end there. Then the goal is to do that on your own without the device.
Yep.
Like to develop that fluency in the sensation in your body, to not be dependent on an external thing, but to feel it in your own body and recreate that because that's then really you can take that with you into the weightlifting session and
Mhm.
make those heavy weights that you're doing bicep curls and presses with, but can those come from your vagina? Like, can you
They
integrate
should.
your pelvic floor and right the
Yeah.
foundation of your core into those bigger movements, but really knowing that you're utilizing them by learning about those more subtle sensations.
Yes. Yes.
And I
Oh my god.
promise you, you will whatever your goal is, you will get there faster. If it is to lift heavier, if it is to, you know,
Have a better sex life.
I mean, the orgasm.
Have a more intimate connection with yourself. I
Right. No,
mean,
and to have the confidence and trust in your own body to be able to show up presently when you are, doing sexy things with a partner or by yourself, right?
mhm,
I mean, how many of us, it's the answer's so many. I'm not going to say all because I don't know everybody and I haven't heard from them all. But like when you first start having sexual experiences, it's like you kind of outsource it to your partner that they'll know what to do.
or your friends if you're willing to go there.
Right? Yeah. But
Yeah.
like it's, we can really, if we aren't comfortable with our own body, we're not showing up fully.
Mhm.
Both both in intimate settings like that are sexual, but also even just like at work, in your life, in your other relationships. If you're so disconnected from your body, you're showing up in this disconnected, sort of fragmented way. Um, we're like, we don't have, which we've been taught to do, but like, what if we did it different?
I think we're seeing that in the younger generations, and I'm not saying because they're not because they're more sexual, but they seem to be more willing to ask questions than any
Yeah.
generation before because they have access to all the information now. It's at their fingertips on a smartphone, and they're not
Yeah.
afraid to actually start asking really good questions.
Awesome.
I know, I'm here for it. But
They
there's
would
this
have they would have asked the teacher if
Oh,
it's
yeah. Is
clitoris
it
or clitoris.
exactly.
They would do it.
Yes,
I wouldn't.
and
I
not be
didn't. That
ashamed.
version of me. Now, yes. Then,
I
no.
I woulda asked in private. I would've because my curiosity would've just like, "I can't I can't walk away from this. I need to know." And I would've asked after the class, and I'm sure a couple of friends probably would've followed me up and been like, "Okay, we wanna know too," but secretly, you know? That was our generation. That was how we approached it. It fascinates me that, my generation, so I'm what do we call me? I am Zennial/millennial. What are we calling that now? The Zennials? The Zennials, yes. So, right at the cusp of millennial.
I thought that made
Wait,
me
no,
an elder
that's the
millennial.
other way. So, yes, I'm an elder millennial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah,
Samesies.
exactly. So, we had access to internet, but not the whole time of our childhood. That's really what it
No,
boils
and
down
not
to,
the
whereas
internet
millennials
as
are
it
like,
is now.
"Oh, no, 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 I remember DOS. I remember having a black screen with green print. I remember
Yes.
having the original Apples."
Yes.
Like,
Oregon Trail
Oregon
being like
Trail,
the
yes.
most exciting revolutionary thing.
5th grade, man, 5th grade.
It was a great time.
It was, but the simple fact that this generation needs more information,
Mhm.
and I am grateful for people like you who are willing to share it and to bring light to it. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Doing what I can with what I got. All right, Amy Puller of Vaginas, Alyssa.
That's me.
Where do we find you on the interwebs?
On the interwebs, you can check out my website, alissaalter.com, Alissa. Um, and on Instagram at Alissa Alter. And on both in both places, you can download a free workout titled "Where is your vagina pointing?" Because I also find that knowing what direction she's facing gives us so much information about your physical alignment and where your body is and how your pieces and parts relate to each other, how they're working together or maybe not working together right
Mhm,
now yet.
mhm.
And if we get a little woo for a moment, which I mean, we could also get very woo,
Oh, yes.
lining up our energy centers, lining up the chakra system. So we're allowing both our physical body and our energetic body to function the way it's intended for all of the things that need to flow without obstruction. And when
Yeah,
we do that, I mean, we're unstoppable.
right?
So you can download that free 40-minute workout on my website and in the link in my bio on my Instagram.
I am going to grab it and play with it because I always love these kinds of things. Learning from other people who teach this kind of stuff is juicy to me because there is power in this place. There is
Mhm.
power in this part of our body energetically, but also when we can stick a mirror in front of it and look at it and label all of the things and know what ours looks like and feels like,
Yes.
and really having an intimate relationship with it, and I mean that double entendre right there.
In every way, all of the
Exactly.
ways.
Exactly. Then then we carry power. And
Mhm.
as we go into our wisdom years, our menopausal, postmenopausal years, now we can carry the torch for the younger generations. He
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna keep recording because,
Okay.
uh, like, my VA will know, let's cut it there, but she might throw this in because when you talked about the fact that you tore,
Mhm.
I also tore. I tore crosswise and
Side to
both
side?
sides, side to side, yes, both
Mm.
split, and it was like 3 stitches on one side, 6 stitches on the other side, and, uh, my daughter went into the NICU, so I was on adrenaline for the next 4 days, just 4 days, thankfully, but adrenaline for those 4 days, and then we went home, and coming down from going home, getting out of bed, I pulled my pelvic floor. I think it was 6 weeks postpartum. So we were in the hospital for half a week and then home, and I was well cared for, well nurtured, but it wasn't until I met my strength and conditioning coach, he helped me understand how to connect with the nervous system and how
Mhm.
to heal those 2 scars with vibration. So, I mean, anybody who has a vibrator has access to this.
Yeah. No, because I mean, it that, like, electrical signal and stimulation and input from there to your brain helps to reestablish, like, a healthy communication
Yes,
system, which
yes.
after an injury, a trauma to the area, your body starts guarding in
Mhm.
all sorts of ways through
Yeah.
muscular everyone thinks that, like, they have a loose vagina after giving birth. But really, after if you sprain your ankle, right, you've overstretched a ligament. You don't end up with like a loose, floppy ankle. It's super tight and you can't move it because your body's like, that was
Protect.
terrifying. We're not going to let that happen again. Right.
Yes.
So we actually have a result. The result is excess tension, which
Mhm.
inhibits our movement, which also it constantly is reinforcing I'm going to make it hurt when you try to move this because I'm scared I'm going to get injured again. And you need that for a little bit, but that's where I think a lot of people start. Oh, now I can't do that. That's where
Yes.
sorry,
They
where they
cut themselves off.
stop.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. But really where the healing happens, and it is possible, I've done it.
Same.
You've done it. If you're an athlete who's really performed, you've done it too. You know this that the real healing happens when you can't blast through the pain and pretend it's not there, but you start like massaging the edges. You get there and you say, I'm not going to go I hear you. I'm not going to go any further today, but maybe just like a smidge. We're gonna try
Mhm.
a smidge and that's it. That's it. That's where I'm stopping, and then we're backing off. And you play with that and you start that communication, and then you rebuild safe, healthy, functional movement patterns that not only rehabilitate that injury,
Yeah.
but prevent all of the other injuries you're gonna get from the weird compensations your body made up because it was terrified. And we can't make really good long-term sustainable decisions in our bodies or like in our life from a place of terror.
Right?
You make survival decisions, which we're grateful for, but that's not meant to be the forever thing.
Right?
And we have to work through that. And it's uncomfortable. It
Well,
shouldn't
and
be
I
painful, but it's uncomfortable.
I feel like what's happening with women who are getting to perimenopause and menopause is all of those traumas have built over and over and over again because they've held tension and held tension. They need more instruction on how to relax things than they do
Yes.
on how to do a Kegel.
Well, because now you've had X number of years of reinforcing this
The traumas.
compensatory habit and system and way of being. And that's okay. That came into play, like, because then people are like, feel guilt, can have feelings of that's okay. Your body did a great job trying to protect you. Thank
Yes.
you, body. And you know what? It's not working anymore.
Yeah.
We're gonna update the system. We're gonna try some new things and we're gonna do it together. Thank you again. You're brilliant. You're brilliant. And you know it's not working either, right? Like, body, we both know. So we're gonna do this and we're gonna do it together and we're gonna do something different and make some magic happen.
Mm. Mm.
We're gonna ask ourselves every day, sometimes multiple times a day,
Right.
where's my vagina pointing?
Where is my? I
Which you
love
will learn
that.
about in the class you can download. And once you know, you won't not know. You can't
Right.
not know.
You can't not know. Well, and when we started, you said, how's the box? And all I kept thinking was, it's not a box, it's a diamond. It's a diamond.
Right. Well,
It's got four corners.
but that's like, a diamond is like kind of like a box on its side. I mean, not
Right.
exactly.
Stretched
Not
out a
exactly.
little.
No, it's a diamond, but just that colloquial term for like
Yes.
calling your
Calling your vagina a box.
vagina your box.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, your vagina itself
I
is
love that.
like more cylindrical than anything, like sort of a flat. Like,
Yeah,
anyway.
figure eight, actually, and an infinity loop is how I always picture it, is that infinity loop happening.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it holds infinite power.
It does.
It does.
It really
But
does.
it
It's
does.
our seat of manifestation. It's our seat of our control, of our power. It's our seat of literally our seat
Yes.
and our grounding,
Yes.
which
Our
keeps
security, our safety, our
us.
foundation. It's all of this great stuff. And
Yeah.
this is, people have not wanted us to have access to this,
No, God, no.
but we're going to do it anyway.
Yes, we are. We're going to carry the torch for the next generations.
Yes.
It's interesting that you bring up that it's it's the safety piece. It's Maslow's hierarchy. The bottom is food, water, shelter, and then right above that is safety. And I just talked to Stasia Rivera on an episode, and she said that the Gen Z and Gen Alphas have flipped the Maslow hierarchy. No.
What?
Yeah. I'm still wrapping my head around this. Yeah. So if you think like, it's a triangle, like we're talking about vaginas. It's another one of those things. If you flip it, now safety is still in the middle, but it's less about safety for them. It's less about food, water, shelter. Because I feel like they've already got those things covered because we've evolved so much. But holy crap.
Yeah, that's like
Willpower's at
mind
the top.
blowing.
Yeah, willpower is at
And
the base. That's
awesome.
what they care about. Yes, right? Because they have so much access to information, and they have to have better ways of organizing it, is really what it boils down to. Whereas we're all being told as adults that we all have ADHD because we're trying to organize all of that information because we didn't do that when we were kids. We had the Encyclopedia Britannica in book form.
We did.
Yes. You looked that shit up. You didn't just go to the internet and be like, what is the color blue made from?
Yeah.
You looked it up in the encyclopedia.
And that's, like, it's hard to think about, and, people land wherever they land, but it's like, this is what is supposed to happen. Like, we're supposed to evolve. Like,
Yes.
these generations have so much to teach us, and we have things to teach them too.
Yes. Like this
but
stuff.
but it's reciprocal, where I also think we're one of the first generations to look at our kids and kids, younger people in general, and look at it that way rather than do what I say, right?
Right. Yes. Or I lead you silently. That's if we go beyond the boomers,
Yeah.
that they were silent leaders and they just expected everybody to kowtow.
Yeah.
So, yes. Oh man. Yes. Alissa, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Spirit of an Athlete podcast. If you're struggling with your own gut issues and want more direction, you can get an initial body scan from Amanda at bodywhisperhealing.com. In 20 minutes, you can find out what's wrong, get clarity, map the path forward, and get on track to get back in your game. If this episode hits the spot, please please let us know by rating, reviewing, and sharing it with a friend. Subscribe now to hear more inspiring stories from other female college athletes who overcame their health issues. Want more, Amanda? Get inspired by finding more at bodywhisperhealing.com.